Billy shivered. The Blackwood House loomed over him. It was a monstrous house. Shadows stretched from every corner. Billy never wanted to come inside. His parents insisted. This house was their inheritance. The air inside felt heavy. Dust covered everything. Cobwebs clung to the walls like ghostly fingers. Billy hated it here. He wished they could leave. Billy's parents explored the house. He trailed behind them, his heart pounding. Each creaking step sent chills down his spine. They entered a dusty old room. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the grime on the windows. In the center stood a pedestal. On it stood a statue. It was a small, grotesque figure. Its eyes seemed to follow Billy's every move. Creepy, Billy mumbled. He didn't dare touch it. The family spent the entire day cleaning the house from top to bottom, dusting furniture, vacuuming the living room, and making sure every corner was spotless. Billy, however, avoided the room with the old statue. He always felt uneasy near that door, hesitating every time he passed by. He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched whenever he was near it. It was as if unseen eyes were following his every move, making the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. As evening approached, his parents decided to leave for a dinner party. They said their goodbyes at the front door, leaving Billy alone in the house. Billy breathed a sigh of relief, glad to have the house to himself. The silence was comforting, a break from the earlier tension. But then, as he walked past the room with the statue, he noticed something strange. Something was off, and it caught his attention immediately. The statue, which had always faced the window, was now turned towards the door. It was as if it had moved on its own. "Must be the wind," his dad had said earlier, dismissing Billy's concern with a casual wave of his hand. But Billy knew better. There were no open windows in that room, the air was still, and the statue's new position was impossible to ignore. Section 4. Playing Tricks. Over the next few days, the statue moved again and again. It was as if it had a life of its own, shifting subtly at first, then more noticeably. Each time it was more drastic. The changes were becoming impossible to ignore. A turn of the head, a slight tilt that seemed almost deliberate, a shift in its position, as if it was trying to communicate or reach out. Billy tried to tell his parents. They didn't believe him. They thought he was just making up stories to get attention. They thought he had an overactive imagination. "It's just a statue," they said. "It can't move on its own." One day Billy walked past the room. He felt a chill run down his spine. The statue's arm was raised. It was a position he had never seen before. It pointed directly at him. Billy's heart raced as he realized the statue was now acknowledging his presence. He could feel its eyes on his back. Terrified, Billy ran as fast as he could, feeling the weight of the statue's gaze following him. Section 5. Trapped. Billy couldn't take it anymore. The oppressive atmosphere of the house weighed heavily on him, suffocating him with every breath he took. The shadows seemed to move on their own, and the eerie silence was occasionally broken by inexplicable noises that sent shivers down his spine. He decided to leave, to run away from that horrible house and the terrifying statue. The statue, with its cold, lifeless eyes, seemed to follow him wherever he went. It was as if it was alive, watching his every move, waiting for the right moment to strike. As he crept down the stairs, he heard a noise, a slow scraping sound. His heart raced and he felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. The sound was coming from the room with the statue. He froze, listening intently. The scraping grew louder. Something was moving, coming from the room with the statue. He froze, listening intently. The scraping grew louder. Something was moving. He could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. What could it be? He had to know, even though every instinct told him to run. But what? He had to see. He took a deep breath and forced himself to move. Each step felt like an eternity as he made his way towards the room. His heart was pounding so loudly he was sure it would give him away. He crept towards the room, his heart pounding in his chest. He peered inside. The pedestal was empty. The statue was gone. Then he felt it. A cold, clammy hand clamped over his mouth, stifling his scream. A cold, clammy hand clamped over his mouth, stifling his scream. He could feel its hot breath on his ear. The sensation was both terrifying and paralyzing. He wanted to scream, to fight, but he was frozen in place. He could feel its hot breath on his ear. The voice that followed was even worse. It was raspy and evil, sending chills down his spine. "Let's play," it whispered, the words dripping with malice and cruelty. "Now," a voice whispered, raspy and evil. "Let's play." Billy's mind raced, trying to comprehend what was happening. He had to find a way out, but the grip on him was unyielding. The nightmare had only just begun.